Story 1. The Visitor. Has anyone ever had sleep paralysis before? It's one of the strangest, most fascinating, yet horrifying things you can experience. It's the feeling of being completely unable to move upon awakening. Your senses and awareness are fully intact, but you are trapped in a half-asleep, half-awake state. I had heard stories about it long before it happened to me, but I've only experienced it once. I was in college going through an incredibly tough time. I was insanely stressed during finals week and barely getting any sleep. It was the night before my last exam, and I had stayed up all night studying for biology. I don't remember when I finally called it a night. Everything just became a blur, and then total blackness. The next thing I remember, I was in my room, lying in bed. A strange haziness hung over my awareness. I was conscious, but my body felt completely drained. When I tried to move, I couldn't. I could only roll my eyes around the dark room. I glanced to the side, and when I looked back toward the center of the room, a woman was standing dead center, facing my bed. She was wearing a black dress and holding a few long objects. I wanted to call out for my mom, but the paralysis kept me silent. The woman stepped closer, knelt down, and touched my forehead. I could actually feel her touch. She brought her face level with mine, and I saw my mother's face. I tried desperately to say "Mom" again, but I was completely stuck inside my own body. She stood back up, walked to the doorway, and disappeared into the house. I lay there frozen for another 10 to 20 seconds before my vision and thoughts suddenly cleared. The moment control returned, I sat up, jumped out of bed, and ran into the hallway, screaming for my mom over and over. A door opened down the hall, and someone came out to hug me. But it wasn't my mom, it was my dad. He held me and whispered that he missed her too. My mom had died 3 weeks before. Story 2. The Crack in the Door. You know what I love about dreams? How vague and bizarre they can be. You feel like you're in a separate world where logic doesn't apply. But what happens when that unearthliness transcends into the real world? I was in REM sleep, deep in a nightmare about being stalked by a strange creature in the middle of the woods. The dream slowly became fuzzy, and I woke up, or at least I thought I did. While I was out of the dream and back in my bed, I couldn't move a single muscle. Then I heard a faint, strange noise. It was an indescribable sound, robotic, yet somehow alive. It started soft, repeating every 3 seconds, but with each repetition, it grew slightly louder and closer. The noise eventually became so deafening inside my head that I wanted to scream, but my throat was locked. My eyes drifted toward the closet door, specifically the crack where it was left slightly open. I never leave my closet door open. Looking out from the dark crack was the distorted face of a man wearing an unnaturally wide, open-mouthed smile. Every time the robotic sound repeated, the closet and the face seemed to jump closer to me. Suddenly, the closet door slammed shut, and everything went dead silent. Control returned to my body seconds later. Even though I was 24 years old, I ran straight to my dad's room and begged him to check my closet. We found nothing in the closet or anywhere else in the room. My dad was fairly confident it was just sleep paralysis, mentioning he had experienced it once himself. Knowing what it was didn't make it any less disturbing. Story 3. The Gift. Many years ago, I had a terrifying sleep paralysis episode. It started within a dream. I knew there was something evil inside my closet, but I also knew I was dreaming and decided to face my fear. I tried to look directly at the closet door, but every time I tried, my head involuntarily turned away. No matter how hard I fought, I couldn't force my eyes to look at it. I woke up in a cold sweat. At first, I felt immense relief that it was over. But that relief quickly vanished when I realized I still couldn't move. I was lying on my back, completely paralyzed. I couldn't hear it with my ears, but I could feel a sickening, silent laughter wash over me in waves, emanating directly from the closet. Suddenly, the entity inside threw a severed human head across the room. It landed heavily on my chest, face up. It was a girl I knew from high school. Up to this point, I was terrified, but holding it together. Seeing the head made me lose control. I couldn't scream. I could only make strained grunts and moans. I writhed and tried to rock my body side to side to knock the weight off my chest, but I was completely pinned. This nightmare lasted another minute or two before I actually woke up. It was so traumatic that for weeks afterward, every time I woke up, I was terrified that I was still trapped in a dream and that something horrible was about to happen. I had never heard of sleep paralysis or night terrors at that point in my life, and I genuinely thought I was losing my mind. Story 4. The visitors at the bedside. I have suffered from sleep paralysis 3 times in my life. The first 2 instances consisted of simply waking up unable to move. The third time was entirely different. It was early morning, somewhere between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. The sun was just starting to rise, casting a faint, dim light across my room. I tried to move, but that familiar, helpless paralysis set in. My eyes were locked onto the wall. Suddenly, I heard heavy footsteps coming up the stairs toward my room. My brother walked in, followed by my sister, my dad, and my mom. All 4 of them were sobbing hysterically. Strangely, they all appeared to be at least a foot taller than usual, towering so high they nearly touched the ceiling. The 4 of them approached my bed, gathered closely around me, and stood there crying down at me. I wanted to cry for help or scream at them to stop, but I couldn't make a sound. Just as quickly as they had entered, all 4 turned in unison and walked back down the stairs. The moment they left, the paralysis broke. I jumped up and ran downstairs after them, but the living area was completely empty. I checked their bedrooms one by one. All 4 of them were fast asleep in their beds. My heart was racing so hard, I had to lean against the wall to catch my breath. Falling back asleep was impossible, so I lay awake until morning. A few days later, while crossing the street with friends, I was struck by a speeding car. I suffered 3 broken bones and a fractured thigh, requiring a week-long hospital stay. At one point during my recovery, my family came to visit. All 4 of them stood around my hospital bed, looking down at me while my mom cried emotionally. It was the exact image from my episode days prior. I'm not superstitious, but I fully believe that episode was a premonition of what was to come. Thinking about it still gives me chills. Story 5. The entity in the bush. During the summer of 2016, I was out late drinking with friends. We were walking around town late at night when one of my friends spotted someone hiding in a bush in front of a house. He pointed it out, and we all walked closer to check it out. Sure enough, someone was crouched inside the bush. As we approached, a strange, off-putting sound started coming from the leaves. Terrified yet amused, we all screamed and ran away, laughing at how bizarre the situation was. We assumed it was just someone messing with people passing by, and eventually we all headed home. Because I had been drinking, I fell asleep quickly. The next thing I remember was waking up in near pitch blackness, completely unable to move. I rolled my eyes around the room. and then I heard it. That exact same noise from the bush. I looked toward the foot of my bed. Floating in the dark was a horrific, demonic head. As it drifted closer to my face, I realized it wasn't just a head. It had a body that completely blended into the shadows of the room. Its mouth hung open, constantly emitting that unsettling noise. It got mere inches from my face before suddenly fading into nothingness. The moment it vanished, my voice returned. I let out a scream, sat up panting with my heart racing, and flicked on the bedside lamp. The room was empty. The experience felt so real that I couldn't convince myself it was just a nightmare. When I told my parents the next day, they agreed it sounded like sleep paralysis, though neither of them had ever heard of anyone seeing something quite that terrifying.